This video is about conformity and hypocrisy. I'm going to use the example of gay marriage. I'm going to use the example of hatred that Americans have against Muslims. And I'm going to use another example about fashion. So let's talk about fashion first. I used to live in New York City. I lived on the Upper East Side. Upper East Side has a reputation of being a little bit more formal than or conservative, and the Upper West Side had a reputation for being liberal. I did not move to where I moved to because of political beliefs. I moved there because it was the day I looked at lots of apartments. It was my last day to move out of where I was living, and it was the only place that the guy said yes, and I was right there, and everything worked out. Other people said yes, but because I lived 2 hours away, by the time I got home and called them back, they said the apartment was taken by somebody else, things like that happen. So I used to sit there sometimes and stare out the window. And one thing that I noticed is that American women in New York City have a fashion style for the summer and for the winter that is conformist. The women wear leather jackets, blue jeans, and boots, one after another. Black leather jacket, blue jeans, and black boots. Next woman comes by, black leather jacket, blue jeans, black boots. One after another, after another, after another. And sometimes you would see a woman with a brown leather jacket. And it's not like it was an isolated incident or it was the same woman every day. I mean, this all the time. This is what they do. They conform. I didn't look at men and say all these men are dressed the same. Men had, walking down the street, had a lot of diversity in the clothing that they were wearing. Women, no. And in the summertime, they had a different style. Flip-flops was popular. Everybody was wearing flip-flops at the time. I don't know if they're doing the same thing now. I don't remember the rest of the attire. But I just wanted to point this out because it's something that you're only going to see in a place like New York City. You're not going to see it in a suburb or in the countryside. So it's an interesting observation. Now, I'm going to do this chronologically. This happened first. So I'm going to talk about Muslims. After 9/11, there was hatred against Muslims in the United States. I'm not a hateful person. I'm very friendly. I'm friends with everyone. At this point, I had already read and researched all the religions in the world that I could find. And I realized that a lot of them are actually very similar. Like the Muslims have 10 commandments, Jews have 10 commandments, Christians have 10 commandments. They're very similar. The Muslims believe in Christianity, the Old Testament, the New Testament. They believe in Jesus Christ. They have in Adam and Eve and Moses. Muslims have their own beliefs, but in many ways they are similar to Christianity. And like I said, already knew this, because I researched all the religions just out of curiosity, because I wanted to know what other religions believed. So I was like, oh, and when I did that, I had less faith in my own religion. I said, my religion is not unique and special. I'm a Christian, Catholic. And everybody hated Muslims. People were always saying about how they wanted to get back at Muslims and take revenge on Muslims. Everybody, my coworkers were saying it. The women that I met didn't want to date Muslims. They did not want to go on. The women that I went on dates with said that they did not date Muslims. They told me that. And there was anti-Muslim rhetoric in the media. But then you fast forward 15 years later, and nobody hates Muslims. And I'm like, but you're the same people. And these people are lecturing me about how I'm not supposed to hate Muslims. I'm like, I don't hate Muslims, and I didn't hate them 15 years ago, and you did. You changed because of what reason? I had my beliefs because I already knew that it's wrong to hate people. You didn't. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. You did it because you conformed, because everyone else in the media told you don't hate Muslims anymore. And then it got to the point where women who, when I met them, refused to date a Muslim man because they believed that Muslim men were abusive towards women and sexist and would beat them. Now it's cool to date a Muslim man, especially if he's got a beard. That's what I read. That's what they think is hip. And I'm not talking about 18-year-olds. Adults believe this. Then the other issue is the war. After 9/11, everybody was pro-war. There were very few people that said, I am anti-war. And if they gave a reason why, they usually could not give a reason why. They just said, I'm anti-war. My personal belief is that I did not believe in overthrowing Saddam Hussein. I did not support him being in power. I thought that good things would come out of the war. I don't like the fact that people were dying who, the Iraqi soldiers are involuntarily fighting. They don't want to fight the United States. They love the United States, and they don't want to fight the United States. Saddam Hussein loved the United States. He gave rhetoric that he hated it, but he loved American movies and American music and American culture. He liked the United States. He just hated the way he was being treated, especially considering we were once allies. We turned our back on him, you could say. Which we did. We armed him and then armed his enemies to fight against him. You know, that's what the U.S. did to Iraq. They gave arms to Iraq, and then when Iraq was winning, they gave arms to Iran to turn the tide in the war so that Iraq would lose. That's what the United States did. Your country did that. You can read about it. You can read about the history of your country. So I have an issue with people who flip-flop, how can it be that everybody hated Muslims or everybody was anti-war? No, everybody was pro-war after September 11th. Now everybody's anti-war. And I was like, but you were pro-war at one time. And now you're saying that you're anti-war. You changed your position. War was bad before it started. Why did you change your position? They changed it because the media changed. They're conformists. They didn't change it because of independent thought. You don't see people going around, you know what, I think the war is wrong because you have innocent people that are dying that really don't want to fight in the war, that are being directed to fight in the war. We're talking about in Iraq, for example, with the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. You don't hear people making logical reasons why they're against the war. So it's hypocritical. That's what it is. Conformity has bad things about it. And the gay marriage is another issue. 20 years ago, everybody was against gay marriage. Hillary Clinton was against gay marriage. Barack Obama was against gay marriage. Bill Clinton was against gay marriage. He signed into law a law that was against gay marriage. Bill Clinton did that while he was president. Barack Obama, there's a video of him that you can look at where he's being questioned. He says, you were against gay marriage, and he says that he has an evolving position on gay marriage, which means he's a flip-flopper because he's a person who follows the media. He's not a leader. He's a follower. He's a conformist. And all these people are now, well, we're pro-gay marriage now, and everybody else hates gay marriage and hates gays. That's not true. Because there were people like me who said people should be able to do whatever they want. The government should have no business regulating marriage. The government shouldn't say, if you marry this person, you own 50% and you own 50%, and the house has to be split this way, and you have to be straight. The government shouldn't be making rules like that because they're going to do it wrong. They're going to exclude a party. The government can do it, but you should be a voluntary participant in it. You should have an option that suits yourself, to your own self-determination. And when you change the law and you say, okay, well, now gays are included, well, guess what? You excluded people that don't identify as straight and don't identify as gay are excluded. For example, I believe it was Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold and one other person wanted to get married, and maybe they did a three-way marriage. And I don't know if they actually did it. I think they actually did. But it was something that they spoke about and joked around about. It was on TV, and they made it sound like it was serious or something that they wanted to do. There's there's going to be somebody excluded, and the laws have not accommodated them, and they're going to have to fight for that. And the simple solution is to not regulate who can get married, recognize marriage, keep a record of it, so when somebody says, I have a wife, here's the proof. But don't say, okay, the other issue is the government can deny marriage to people, and the government has denied marriage to straight people before. They can say your marriage is a sham marriage. When Barack Obama's father was claiming that he was married to Stanley Dunham, the caseworker in the 1950s, in the 1950s or 1960s, said that she did not believe that they were married. And there's no proof that they were married. There's no marriage certificate. There's no evidence that Barack Obama's parents were married. There is divorce records, no marriage records. The person believed it was a sham marriage because he was doing it to try and get money to go to college. If you got married, you got more money because he had a family to support. You can be disallowed the right to be married if you have a mental handicap where you're unaware of what's going on. It used to be that you would be married so marriage laws did not exist in the majority of the history of the earth. Marriage laws are modern. In the 1800s, there were places where there were no marriage laws, so just by telling somebody, a third party, that you were married to somebody, that means you were married. Or if you checked into a hotel room with someone who was not your wife, then you were legally married. And there's another one where if a woman says you're married 3 times and you don't deny it, then you're legally married. So there's all sorts of weird laws from the United States. And those were laws. So you can see that there's crazy marriage laws, and there's more crazy marriage laws. It's a mistake. Every state, there's 50 states, marriage is regulated at the state level. You got 50 states, they got 50 different marriage laws. And the marriage and divorce laws of one state is different than another. For example, Ohio is a popular state for some people because it gives an advantage. I believe women have an advantage getting married in Ohio, and men have a disadvantage, something to do with the laws. It's just something that I heard. People warned me, if a woman tells you that they want to get married in Ohio, they said don't do it. And in California, I know there was someone who told me that when he discovered the divorce laws, he divorced his wife immediately because he was penalized by staying in an unhappy marriage for a longer period of time. As the time increased, he was going to be penalized through alimony over the years, and he didn't want that to happen, so he had to divorce her immediately. And guess what? Do you really want the government telling you what to do? It's, to me, the government telling you who you can marry is like saying who your brother is or who your best friend is. The government has no business in those matters and should not regulate marriage and divorce. It should be something that you jointly decide with the person that you want to spend your life with. And whether you do it through a lawyer or through a marriage law, you should have self-determination. And when you do it that way, it includes everyone. And I am a conservative Republican. I am not a liberal, and no liberal believes that. Liberals want the marriage laws. Okay, so leave your comments below.